My family erased me from their photos, their memories, their entire life. But when I found out the truth, I made sure they'd never see me again. I wasn't supposed to find them. I wasn't supposed to see the truth. But one mistake changed everything. One hidden folder. And suddenly, my entire life felt like a lie. It started with something simple. My mother left her phone on the kitchen table. She was busy cooking, moving between the stove and the fridge, distracted. Her phone buzzed. "Can you check that for me?" she asked casually. I reached for it without thinking. Screen unlocked. No passcode. And then I saw it. A folder at the bottom of her gallery. Family memories. My chest tightened. Because I had never seen it before. And something in my gut told me, this wasn't just an ordinary album. I tapped the folder. The first photo loaded. A family vacation. My parents. My sister. Smiling. Tropical beach. Expensive resort. And then the next photo. A birthday party. Balloons. Cake. My parents standing proudly next to my sister. And another. Christmas morning. Matching pajamas. Laughter. Photo after photo. Happy moments. Family memories. But there was one problem. I wasn't in a single one of them. I scrolled faster, my hands shaking. Years of photos. Vacations. Holidays. Celebrations. They were all there, except for me. It was like I never existed. Like they had lived an entire separate life without me. And then, at the very bottom of the folder, I found something worse. A photo from a trip I remembered. Or at least, I thought I did. Because I wasn't in the picture. I had been erased. And that's when I realized. This wasn't a mistake. They had been hiding something from me. And I was about to find out exactly what. I stared at the screen, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps. This didn't make sense. I had memories of these moments. Christmas mornings. Birthday parties. Trips my parents had planned. So why wasn't I in any of them? I scrolled faster, desperate for an answer. Hundreds of photos. Smiling faces. Perfectly captured memories. And not a single trace of me. It was like I had never been there at all. Like I had never even existed. The worst part? I remembered that beach vacation. I remembered my mother picking out swimsuits, my father booking the hotel. I remembered packing my bags. But according to these photos, I had never gone. I clicked on another picture, my sister's birthday. The same sister whose parties I had attended every year. The same sister I had watched blow out candles, open presents, pose for photos. But in this version of the story, I wasn't there. Like I had been cut out. Erased. I felt sick. This wasn't just a hidden folder. This was a different version of my family's life. A version where I didn't exist. A version they had carefully curated, saved, and hidden away. But why? Had I done something? Had they always resented me? Or had they simply decided one day that I wasn't part of their perfect family? A notification popped up on the screen. A new message. From my sister. "Last night was amazing. Thanks for making it special." I stared at the words. What last night? I had spent the night at home. Alone. I clicked back into the photo album. The most recent picture was from last night. My parents. My sister. A dinner table filled with food. Celebrating. Without me. They hadn't even told me. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just the past. They were still doing it. I couldn't move. I just sat there, gripping my mother's phone, my pulse pounding in my ears. The photos weren't a mistake. The missing memories weren't an accident. This was intentional. They had erased me. And what was worse? They were still doing it. I scrolled back up, looking at the most recent pictures. The dinner from last night. The warm smiles. The expensive restaurant. The cake with my sister's name written in perfect icing. But no sign of me. Not even an empty chair. It wasn't like I had been invited, but just didn't show up. No, I had never been part of their plans at all. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't just about the past. This was happening right now. A cold realization hit me. I needed to know how far this went. I backed out of the photos and opened her text messages. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I didn't even know what I was searching for. But then, I saw it. A conversation between my mother and my sister. One message stood out, Sent just a few days ago. Don't mention anything to my name. You know how they get. I felt my stomach drop. Not we forgot to invite them. Not let's plan something later. Just don't tell them. Like I was some kind of problem they didn't want to deal with. Like it was easier to pretend I didn't exist. I sat there, gripping the phone so hard my fingers ached. A million questions ran through my mind. Had they ever wanted me around? Or had they just kept me close enough to keep up appearances until one day they decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore? And the worst part? They never even told me. They just started cutting me out, erasing me from pictures, from events, from their lives. And now I had proof. They wanted me gone. So I was about to give them exactly what they wanted. I put my mother's phone down. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would break through my ribs. I had spent years feeling like something was off. Like I was always on the outside looking in. Like I was tolerated, but never truly wanted. And now? Now I had proof. They didn't forget about me. They didn't accidentally leave me out. They had been actively erasing me. From pictures. From events. From their lives. And they didn't even think I'd notice. I stood up, feeling my body move on autopilot. I walked to my room, grabbed my suitcase, and started packing. No hesitation. No second guessing. Because if they had spent all these years trying to erase me from their lives, then I would make it easy for them. I was done pretending this was a family. I was done trying. The memories flooded back as I folded my clothes. Every holiday where I felt like a guest in my own home. Every time I watched my parents light up around my sister while I got a nod and a distracted smile. Every time I sat at the dinner table, listening to them talk about plans I was never part of. It all made sense now. They had been slowly cutting me out for years. And the worst part? I had let them. Because I kept hoping things would change. That one day, I'd be enough. That one day, they'd actually see me. But now, I knew the truth. I was nothing more than a shadow in their perfect family portrait. Something they had worked hard to crop out. And I wasn't going to stick around to watch them finish the job. I zipped up my suitcase, grabbed my keys, and walked to the front door. I didn't even leave a note. Because what was the point? They didn't want me in their lives. So I was finally going to give them what they wanted. I was gone. And this time, I wouldn't be coming back. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just me, my suitcase, and the overwhelming silence of a life I was finally leaving behind. I expected something to happen. A call. A message. Some kind of reaction. But the hours passed. Then a full day. And then 2. And you know what happened? Nothing. No one noticed. No one cared. And that was the moment I truly understood. I hadn't been part of this family for a long time. Maybe I never was. I moved into a small apartment across town. No fancy furniture, no framed photos on the walls. Just space. Space to breathe. Space to exist without waiting for approval that would never come. At first, I thought I'd feel free. But the truth? The silence was unbearable. Not because I missed them, but because for the first time, I was forced to accept reality. They had moved on from me long before I had moved on from them. And that realization? It hurt more than I wanted to admit. A week passed. Still nothing. No calls. No texts. It was like I had disappeared, and they didn't even notice. I told myself it was better this way. That I had made the right decision. That I was done with them. But then, late one night, my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Short. Casual. Like nothing had happened. Dinner at 7. Don't be late. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. She hadn't even acknowledged my absence. She hadn't asked where I was, if I was okay. As if I had never left at all. And that's when I realized. They didn't erase me because they hated me. They erased me because they never saw me as important in the first place. And now? Now I had a choice to make. Ignore them forever. Or show up and finally make them see me. I stared at the message. Dinner at 7. Don't be late. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't moved out. Like I hadn't discovered their secret, the hidden folder, the missing photos, the life they had built without me. No, where are you? No, are you okay? Just an expectation. Because that's all I had ever been to them, someone expected to obey. But not this time. I should have ignored it. Blocked their numbers. Cut them off completely. But something inside me wouldn't let it go. Because I wanted to know. I needed to know. What would they do when I didn't show up? Would they notice? Would they care? Or would they keep pretending I didn't exist? I was about to find out. I waited until 7:30. Then 8 o'clock. Then 9 o'clock. No calls. No messages. Nothing. Like they hadn't even noticed I was missing. Like I was so unimportant that my absence didn't change a thing. I felt sick. Not because I was sad, but because, deep down, I already knew this would happen. I had spent my whole life fighting for space in their world. And now? Now I was finally seeing reality. They had already made their choice. And it was time I made mine. I grabbed my phone, opened the family group chat, and started typing. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to do exactly what they had done to me. Erase them. Don't contact me again. Send. Then, one by one, I removed them from my contacts. My mother. My father. My sister. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for them to choose me. I was choosing myself. And this time, I wasn't looking back. I thought that was the end. I thought one message, "Don't contact me again," would be enough. That they'd finally let me go, just like they had been trying to do for years. But I was wrong. Because for the first time, my absence actually mattered. And now? Now they wanted me back. The messages started the next morning. First, from my mother. "Is this some kind of joke?" Then my father. "Enough of this. You're being dramatic." And then, my sister. "What's wrong with you?" I stared at the screen, my grip tightening. They weren't upset that I left. They were upset that I made the choice. That they weren't the ones in control anymore. And that made them panic. I didn't respond. I left them on read. Hours passed, then a full day. And then, a new message. One that made my blood run cold. "We need to talk. It's important." I almost ignored it. Almost deleted it like the rest. But something about it felt different. Like they weren't just trying to pull me back. Like something had actually changed. And against my better judgment. I needed to know what. So for the first time in weeks, I picked up the phone. And I called. And what I heard next. I never saw it coming. I hesitated before answering the call. A part of me wanted to ignore it. To let them sit in silence, just like they had forced me to do for years. But another part, the part that needed answers, couldn't walk away just yet. So I took a deep breath and pressed accept. The moment I did, my mother's voice came through. Low. Shaky. Not angry like before. Not demanding. Scared. "We need to talk." I didn't say anything. Just waited. Because for once, they were the ones scrambling for words. "It's about the pictures." I went still. Of all the things I expected her to say, that wasn't it. "We never meant for you to see them," she continued. "It's not what you think." I clenched my jaw. Not what I think. So what was it then? A mistake? A glitch? A harmless coincidence that they had erased me from every major family event? I almost hung up. But then she whispered something that stopped me cold. "We were protecting you." A sharp laugh escaped before I could stop it. Protecting me? From what? From vacations I was never invited to? From the reality that I had never been a priority? But then my father spoke for the first time. "It's your sister." The name hit me like a slap. Because all this time, I had assumed this was about me. That they had erased me because they didn't care. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. "She didn't want you there," my mother admitted. She told us it was better this way." I felt something inside me crack. "You don't understand," my father added. She has problems. She always has." The words blurred together. Excuses. Justifications. Half-truths wrapped in concern. But all I could hear was the real message. They chose her. Again. Always. They let her erase me. And now, after all this time, they expected me to understand? To forgive? No. Not this time. A slow, bitter smile crept onto my face. I had spent so many years wondering what was wrong with me. Why I was always left out. Why I was never enough. But now? I finally understood. It was never about me. It was about her. And if they had spent all this time pretending I didn't exist, Then I was about to return the favor. You made your choice. The words came out calm. Even. Now live with it. And before they could say another word, I ended the call. And this time, I was truly done. I stared at my phone after hanging up. No emotions. No second thoughts. Just silence. For years, I had fought to be seen, to be heard, to be part of a family that had already decided I didn't belong. And now, after everything, they wanted me back. Not because they missed me, not because they regretted what they had done, but because for the first time, I was the one in control. And they couldn't handle it. The messages started again, one after another. First my mother. Please, just listen. We didn't know how much this hurt you. Then my father. We made mistakes, but we were only trying to keep the peace. Then my sister. Are you seriously mad about some stupid pictures? That last one made me laugh. Because even after everything, she still didn't get it. This wasn't about pictures. This was about years of being treated like I was disposable. And now that I had left them behind, they were the ones who felt erased. I didn't respond. I let them sit in their guilt. Let them feel the weight of what they had done. Because the truth was, I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need their justifications. I just needed them to understand one thing. I was never coming back. A few days later, a final message arrived. From my mother. Short. Desperate. Just tell me what you want. I read it twice, my stomach twisting. Because I knew exactly what she meant. She wasn't asking what I needed to forgive them. She was asking what it would take to fix their image. To undo the damage. To make this go away. And that's when I knew. They hadn't changed. They never would. I exhaled slowly, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed my final response. Nothing. Send. Blocked. Deleted. And just like that, I erased them the same way they erased me. I thought blocking them would be the end of it. That once I erased them, they'd finally let me go, the way they had always wanted. But I underestimated them. Because for the first time in their lives, they weren't the ones in control. And that drove them insane. A week passed. Then 2. Silence. No calls. No messages. I expected relief. Freedom. But instead, I felt something else. A weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for years, finally lifting. For so long, I had been trapped in a life where I was never enough. Always ignored. Always forgotten. But now, I wasn't waiting anymore. I had taken my life back. And it felt better than I ever imagined. Then, one day, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was short. Desperate. Please come home. No name. No explanation. But I knew exactly who it was from. And I knew exactly what they wanted. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about regret. It was about control. Because the moment I stopped chasing them, they started chasing me. I stared at the message, my heart steady. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel anything. No anger. No sadness. Just peace. Because I finally understood. I had spent my whole life waiting for them to love me the way I deserved. But I didn't need their love. I never did. I had something better. A life without them. I never responded. I never looked back. I moved forward without them. And the best part? They knew it. They knew they had lost me. For good. And now, they were the ones who had to live with it.